Carlo Morelli here, USS Negotiator. I'm asking you to vote no in the consultation over the UUK proposals to settle our USS dispute. I'm also asking you to ensure that your branch members also vote no. I'm also asking you a final thing, and that is to make sure your branch is calling for a special higher education sector conference. And that's because we need to have members and their delegates and their branches in control of this dispute. The reason being is that the offer is ambiguous. The offer doesn't tell us what the settlement really will be. The UUK offer initially and on the surface looks like it's quite attractive. It looks like it can be a settlement for the dispute permanently in giving us an expert review panel to come up with a plausible, realistic valuation of the scheme that will stop the 3-year cycles of cuts in our pensions and disputes and strikes. However, the problem is in the detail and the meaning of the detail, because it's quite clearly the case that there are different meanings in this document that we've been offered. It starts with the fact that the employers are guaranteeing our pensions at least till April 2019. Why is that there? It's there because it's supposed to look like it's a generous offer, when in fact we know that the pension can't change until April 2019. That's the implementation date of anything that changes our pension scheme. Also, the issue of a guaranteed pension. Why does the document not talk about a defined benefit scheme rather than a guaranteed pension? The reason is there are different meanings here. If the employer's view of a guaranteed pension is followed, what they mean by that, and I take this from their previous offer, which also used the term guaranteed pension, was a defined benefit scheme with a very low threshold, salary cap, topped up by an individual defined contribution scheme. That's not what we're fighting for. It's not what we've been on strike for 14 days for. Also, the issue of comparable when it comes to changes to the pension scheme. What does comparable mean? Again, the employers in their DC scheme said that was comparable. So the issue here is really about the trust we have with our employers. The reason why there's so little trust in higher education at the moment is because everybody understands that this pension dispute is not simply about our pensions, it's about the wider marketisation of higher education. So it's about the gender pay gap, it's about casualisation, it's about the way in which students are treated. It's also why we're concerned that what will follow this pensions dispute is a series of disputes over jobs. And we're already beginning to see that in Liverpool and the Open University, where employers think they can cut costs in terms of pensions, they can now move on to cutting costs in terms of jobs. We're asking for our pension scheme to be guaranteed. We call it no detriment or status quo. But we don't want to see a change in our pension scheme. Why? Because we know the pension scheme is in surplus. We know the pension scheme's got huge amounts of assets, 60 billion. We know that if the pension scheme remains open and remains with a positive cash flow, there is no risk to this pension scheme. So I'm asking you to vote no and to campaign in your branch to get your branch members also to vote no. It's extremely important that we do that. But I'm also asking you to make sure your branch has a meeting and calls for a special higher education sector conference. The reason we want to do that is that allows the members and the branches to determine how this dispute continues, what our negotiating position is, what we think is a decent settlement, and exactly when we decide a proposal will be put to the members, not simply UUK deciding it for us. Every vote against this offer will be important. If we manage to reject the employer's offer to settle our USS dispute, we'll be in a position to pile on the pressure to get a real settlement, to clear up the ambiguity that's in this document, and to ensure that the employers can't backtrack and interpret it in a completely different way. Even if we don't manage to reject it, the bigger vote for rejection we've got means that if the employers do as I fear, and many of us do fear, then we're in a position where we can return to industrial action after the summer and reballot members when actually the truth becomes real. So every vote counts. Make sure you get your members in your branches and your colleagues to vote against this offer. Thanks.